All right, guys, Sam back with you here. It's January 15th. We're kind of middle of the day here. And as we switch now back and forth between traditionals and crypto here today by request amongst our members to look at Crude. Now, Crude, I would tell you, much like trading in the FX market or currencies, it's so damn volatile that you really, my best counsel I can give you, having traded Crude a lot, and struggled with it. It's not an easy market to trade. I have had much better results when I back out the time frame rather than try and deal with the very short-term stuff. And you can see here, right, this is a daily chart. We got can you find a better 5-wave structure here? Now, you look here, and this is really, it's probably been 2-3 weeks since we looked at Crude, right, just following up from where we left off. I mean, pretty much everything that we teach you at Trade Devils University here is encompassed in this chart. So we've got a clean 5 down. Now, and I've shown this before, and I'm just grabbing from the pull right before we went down. And so what did we do? Right into the golden zone. So you've got, it's just perfect. So, and look at the reaction. What is that? What, just out of curiosity. So that's, we'll call it 77 to 42. Nothing fancy here. All right, here was, did you see it? Here's the first algo reaction here at the 50. Right, that's from 66 to 58. Nothing wrong with that. Here, look at the reactions at the median line. Now, where's the tell, right? So we don't make the median line here. Or what do we run into? We're on our way to get there. It looks like, you know, we hit lower parallel. We're on our way to get there. What do we run into? Right, algos, right? They sell it there. So so now you'd look at that and you think, oh, okay, well, how are we relative to this low? So can't we just do the same thing on the other side? Maybe that's what happened here. Well, if we pull from this side and we go up to that pivot, right on there, break. Right, the break is not insignificant, right? So the algos that were buyers, so you can see, here, let me back into this. So let me pull this one off so I can show this to you. So you had a corner pocket here. You had just a gorgeous, let's clear this up. So you had a corner pocket here, right? So that's still left over from the last video I did on this here, so from the low, right? So pulling right here, it didn't quite make the 50, so it was a shallow B. Well, we had a bit of complexity there, but so here's the rip. There's your corner pocket. We know 80% odds, makes it on the 3. Bounce, 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 again, failure, right? That's the tell. Now combine that with the fact that we bumped into the golden zone. There's your result, right? So as soon as we broke this, it was pretty clear we had a significant top in. So all the subdivision plays, you get an A, B, you get a 1, 2, 3, 4, ending diagonal finishes it. All of it implies that you had a potential, right? It's always just that. It's a potential pivot up here. Well, I think we can confirm that now. So where are we? Well, this makes this a little tricky. So you kind of look at that and you go, why do we stop there? Well, the one thing that you can see here, this level seems to be important to the market, right? Boom, 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 3 times. What is that? 41.90, 42-ish. Market seems to be responding there. So here's the point of control. Here's all the activity here, and now we're just bouncing around point of control. So now I would look at that and think, well, this is such a straight rip down. You can probably get 5 out of that. But if that's an ABC, what would you imply there? What would this move imply? 5 down, 3 up, right? So there's only so far this can go. Right, where at some point you got to look at that and say, well, wait a minute. If that's a correction that's completed and that's ripped down here, odds are that's not an A wave. So that would suggest 1, 2, 3, 4. We going to 0? Well, right, so we know we're not going to 0. So you kind of have a conundrum there. What do you do about that? This can't be this. Well, what are the options, right? So it can't be 1, 2. Right, we'd never make it. A, B, can't be C. Leaves you with a bit of a conundrum, right? As an Elliott trader, where could we be going? Really, I'm genuinely, that's not a rhetorical question. I don't have an answer. Where are we going? Well, I mean, all you can do is just work with the structure here and say, okay, I've got a significant pivot. I've just bumped into the support. What's the next most likely thing to happen? That we can say odds are pretty strong here. Now, interesting. We'll hit the 50 right as we hit the Vegas wave. Now, note here. What's here? All right, look at this little indecision, right? The 4, right, as we stalled there, right? That little pocket. All right, we're gonna come into that now. You don't know if you have to catch all of it here, but you got a lot. You got a lot here. You could pull up to this little pivot here. Maybe that's some resistance, right, that you wouldn't be getting there. So if I pull this up to the 50, what's there? Really just this cluster here where you can see this reflected over here, but you have a little low volume node right on the other side of that. So it's hard to develop a longer term count on this. 5 down, 3 up would imply 5 down. Well, I'm sure we can dig 5 out of that. Or I'm on a daily, right? So here it just looks like straight down. But if we break it down, I'm sure we can get 5 down. 5, 3. That's just the start of something. That would imply significantly lower prices. But there's a point where you go, okay, well, we're not going to 0. So where are you in the larger count? Well, it was shit. I remember this, right? That was $26 a barrel. What did we hit here? 44. Well, there's definitely more downside here. I certainly wouldn't be looking at this and saying, well, there's absolutely no way to lean into a buy here. Well, so you've lost the buy side algo. Now we're on a big degree here, right? We've lost the buy side, right? They're out. So the only way to play this here that's practical, you've got to anticipate there's another algo play there, right? It's just too good, and the break here means, so what does that mean, right? So any algos that were buyers here, they're stopped out now, right? So all they're going to do is they're just going to wait. They're going to wait for the next 50, right? And so just like you saw it here, right? So it doesn't mean we can't, right? Doesn't mean we can't get through it, but there's going to be selling pressure there, and they'll defend right here. They'll defend right up to the golden zone. So look, if we take that pivot, this pivot maybe, that's at your 38. So you got to pay attention to these. It's always good to wick them off and just kind of leave them there, even if you lose track of why they're there. At some point here, that's likely to come. Well, maybe we may bump into that right away. So if that's going to go up that way, what you're likely to experience here, if this is an impulse, which sure hard to argue with anything else, you might get a little bounce like that before you head down. That's what you'd anticipate. I don't know that there's a way to resolve this in a long-term Elliott count other than impulse, correction, target. What else is there to do? Right? So I would not even keep the buy side pull there because I don't want to be tempted to get long because I know it's already broken. So I don't even want to be distracted by that. All I'm looking for is the next opportunity to be a seller. And I got a pretty fat range here. Call it 60 to 63. So you got a pretty fat range. If we get into that range, if you're comfortable, I personally wouldn't do anything in crude that wasn't hedged. I would never take anything in crude overnight that wasn't hedged. Just me personally, right? But biggest loss of my entire trading career was, I had a credit spread here in crude, but I think it was up at 128, and even with the spread, that we had the sort of surprise move, and there was some Middle Eastern conflict and chaos here, and the market moved so fast I couldn't hold the margin. I had a fairly big position on. Took a very big loss there, right? So you got to approach with caution in crude because of shit happens, right? Bombs go off, things. You got to be careful with crude, right? So I wouldn't just, word to the wise, I wouldn't take things overnight without some sort of hedge. Again, in the shit happens thinking. All right, so if we go, so that established here, I guess we can pull this off. So you really you need a pivot here because there will be a channel you can build, right? When we get that pivot, don't have it yet. This looks like, so that would be a pretty reasonable path here. We'd bump into this resistance here at the 38, retrace, right? There's probably a trade there from the retrace into this zone here. We'd be looking for the sell, but it's really just a setup to catch the short side. So let's go from a daily down to the 60-minute see what we can learn in there. Boy, what do you do with that? It's pretty much just straight down. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you got 1, you got a very shallow 2, 3. This looks like your 4, and you finish in 5. Let's get that degree up where we can see it. How about we'll go subminuet. Okay, so right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This looks like there's another kick here. So let's pull this off here just to clear up the chart. Can't quite work with that yet. So 1, 2. Well, you got to put it in the context of where we're coming from. So you got to work off of this pull. Yeah, you can. So if we're putting in an A, you got to think A, B, C. So where are we in that count? Sure looks like you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going in to get your A wave. Down on a 60, so let's zoom in there a little more, see how good this actually looks. ABC, it looks like that's your best case for. Well, that's so likely because you don't have another 50 in there. So if they worked off of this low here, 50, 50, 50, front run, second target. Hard to think of it as anything else. Maybe just pull that off. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it looks like 3 is in. I don't know that 4 is in just yet. So I'd be watching for this. So this looks like just the A wave going in, B going in. All right, so if we think about where we could be going, so if that's the 3 here, we'll take the lowest pivot. So this would be a little right to the Vegas wave. Right? That looks more to me like so how you can't doesn't look like a C. So maybe actually A, B, C. So this actually looks like that could be. This looks like 3. I'm on a 60. Hard to get a C out of that. So you may have A, B, C. So I'd be paying attention to this. If you're thinking on the long side, I'm going to use the lowest low. What did we do? Right to the golden zone. All right, that's where we stalled this morning. Now, crude is volatile enough. These blow through all the time. You're here even at a 60. But Jesus, look at this. I promise you guys, I find these just as you do. So here from that low, I'm just using this low. So reaction at the 50. Now reaction to the 618. Right? I mean, I've shown this now. It's got to be thousands of times, right? It's got to be, right? So we know what happened there. We know what happened there. So this same algo is defending here, right? So there's nothing on the buy side, so just the sell side. So if this breaks, do you understand what has to happen here? This has to break, right? If that breaks, then the algo that is here selling this will now just wait. They'll take their loss and they'll wait for the next 50 because sooner or later they get on the right side of it. That's why they do it that way. So if this breaks, so just for the sake of discussion, if that breaks, well, all they're going to do is take the next 50. So let's say it gets up here and it breaks. All they're doing is waiting for this. They're going to let that come down here. They're going to buy there. They'll defend here, and that's what they're after. Right, see, that's why they have the pockets to do it. They just keep going. Sooner or later, they get on the right side. Right, that's where you can always find this here. Right? Sooner or later, they get it. Always. They may take 3, 4 in a row, but sooner or later, they're going to get on the right side of it. So if that's A, B, well, where could we be going? Well, we know we can go, if this breaks here. Now, from an Elliott perspective, so you can almost see that there's a candidate here for, if that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going in. So that would suggest we've got A. Can we do it that way? So we go A, B, C. Now that works. Yeah, so we could have this A, B, C going in. Let's change that color. So that's all right there. So let's get these guys. We'll go up a degree. I don't know that I'd be playing into the buy side there, considering what we've come through. Get rid of that. So A, B, C, I'd be watching, knowing we can certainly go up to this to the 7, 8, 6. So that actually sort of tees it up rather nicely. So where would that put us? So if we come A, B, C into a B here, well, yeah, sure sets that up nicely, doesn't it? I know it says we have to stop there. Where's second target? Right there, down here at the 50. So backing that out. Okay, does that fit? Well, if this is 2 to the 3, that'd put us, well, we got a couple of things right here. So here's the 38 and so potentially the C's here, right? We've got some structure here. All right, so I'd wick that off. 1, 2, 3, A, B. I'd prefer it down here. Oh, it's Jesus, look at this. Look how nice that just a big fat low volume node is there. Do you see that here? There's just no trade there. Jesus, why am I not getting hot there? All right, so you can see that right there. All right, all right here with that pivot. All right, so this, boy, is that sexy. So there's, if you want to be on the buy side, you know, that's a reasonable play from the 4 to the 5. So you'd be looking here. So you've got that nice confluence. You got the structure. You've got the 618. You got an algo target. You got the Elliott pattern. That is tradable, but just same thing. Buy side, short side. I wouldn't take it without a hedge. I wouldn't carry it overnight. It's just, again, that's just me. Right. So I still feel the burn from that huge loss I took trading crude. So I'm always careful of crude. So 1, 2, 3, A, B, C down for the 4. How do you not like that? All right, so where would that put us? So let's go to, let's see at a 3 hour how we look. Where would we be in that count? Well, we'd just be likely just putting in the A wave, right? So you can, now we kind of put the whole thing together. Come here, A. So let's get you up. Okay, A. So if we finish there, we've got our A. Now we'd be looking for that to come down. So I got too much on here. So get you guys out of here. If that's going to go, so what does that set up, right? So we'd have a clear 5-wave motive wave, right? Right now it doesn't look like much threat to be anything other than an impulse. We'll see now. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But if that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I mentioned this the other day. This is harder to see when I don't have the arrow. So if that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, all you're doing is just as you would with any completed 5, we're just pulling from that low. If we complete up here, where's the next opportunity? Right there. Right? So just as you've seen me do hundreds and hundreds of times. What are we anticipating? On boom, boom. If we're going to get a 3, could that be? Right? Let's see what that would look like. So we know we have that structure there, right? So remember I told you you wick these off and you're like, shit, I can't even remember what that's from. But I know it was significant, so I don't really have to do all this and go all the way back. Whatever it was significant, or I wouldn't have wicked it off. So I know I got something there. Now, if we get that kind of setup, right? Of course, all that's happening is you're teeing up a corner pocket. Depends where we get it. All right. Are we going here? Maybe it takes a while. Where would that be relative to this pivot? See how you just kind of put the whole thing together? Look where that puts us. Right? You see, just the whole, that's why I always take you through this process of building the roadmap. Now, we have no freaking idea if that's what happens. But if you just look here, you can make this is a logical approach to patterns that we know repeat. Right? That's the benefit of Elliott here. So otherwise, it's just random chaos. You have no way to organize it. That's all we're doing is trying to organize the chaos. So we know there are tendencies here. We have probability zones. Right? As I've said thousands, equally a number of times, you're going to be wrong more than you're right. But it's worth doing this because there will be those times when it will follow it absolutely to the T. And you're going to know, oh, shit, I know right where we are. Oh, I was expecting that. I know where it is. Oh, I know what's likely, right? I know what's happening next. I know what's most probable to happen next. Doesn't mean that we couldn't just, oh, you get off to a good start, you get this thing going, and then some shit happens. Who knows, man? Who knows, right? Down we go. It's not inevitable. It's just a very logical roadmap based on probability zones, based on patterns that we know that repeat. Right, so here I don't have this pivot, I don't have this pivot, but that's how I will leave my chart. Right, so when we come back, so next time I do an update on crude, it'll be interesting to see how that plays. Right, I encourage you to do the same thing. Get roadmaps, have multiple roadmaps. Right, so it's just like you're literally planning a road trip. Right, well, so what if there's a big storm? You know, you're going across the country. There's a big storm. Oh, there's a snowstorm in the Rocky Mountains. We got to plan a detour. Well, so now you're looking at the map, going, well, I could go around this way. Maybe we bypass here. We go through Utah and we catch up. You know what I'm trying to say here. It's worth having a couple of different routes that you could get there. Right now, what do we really know? I got a 5-wave impulse and I'm correcting it. That's what I can see and say with some degree. Certainty is the wrong word, but I can be objective about what's likely happening. Impulse, correction. Just like the same thing on the daily. Right? We had the 5-wave, took what, 6 years down, 3 waves up. Right? That's all we're doing, 5s and 3s. If you break it down, now we add a little sexiness with the median lines and the algo pulls, but it's really 5s and 3s, guys. And then good money management. That's trading in a nutshell. All right, guys, that probably gives you something to chew on. This, boy, right? If that roadmap plays, boy, is there, right? One trade like that. One of these make your year. One of those, you're made. All right, guys, but I sure as hell would keep a hedge on this one way or another. All right, guys, see you later.